And we are back with part three of this week's Bible study for Waymaker Messianic Jewish and Christian Center USA. We are reading through the Messianic Jewish Family Bible, Tree of Life version, TLV. And this week we are reading First Chronicles chapters 1 through 10. So we are now actually at chapter 7. Descendants of other tribes, the sons of Issachar, Tola, Pua, Jashub, and Shimron, 4. The sons of Tola were Uzi, Rephi, Jeriel, Jamai, Ibsam, and Shemuel, heads of their clans. The descendants of Tola were mighty men of valor. Their number in the days of David was 22,600. The sons of Uzi was Izahiah, and the sons of Izrahiah. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Michael, Obadiah, Joel, Ishiah. All five of them were leaders. Along with them by their generations after their clans were 36,000 troops of the army for battle, for they had many wives and sons. Their kinsmen among all the families of Issachar by genealogical records were mighty men of valor, 87,700. The sons of Benjamin, Bela, Becher, and Jediel, 3. The sons of Bela are Ezbon, Uziel, Jerimoth, and Iri, 5. They were heads of clans, mighty men of valor by genealogical records. They were 22,034. The sons of Becher are Zemariah, Joash, Eleazar, Elioenai, Omri, Jeremoth, Abijah, Anathoth, and Elameth, all sons of Becher. According to their genealogical records, their descendants were heads of their clans, 22,200 mighty men of valor. Finally, the sons of Jediel, Bilhan. The sons of Bilhan are Jush, Benjamin, Ehud, Kenai, Zephan, Tarshish, and Ahishahar. All these were sons of Jediel, heads of their clans, mighty men of valor, 17,200, who were able to go out in the army for war. Shupim and Hupim were sons of and that's Ir, and Hushan, and the sons of Aher. The sons of Naphtali were Jaziel, Guni, Jazer, Shalom, the sons of Bilhah, and one of the sons of Manasseh was Azriel, whom she bore. His Aramean concubine bore Machir, the father of Gilead. Machir took a wife from Huppim and Shuppim. His sister's name was Maacah, the name of the second of Zelophehad, and Zelophehad had daughters. Machir's wife Maacah bore a son, and she named him Perish. His brother's name was Sheresh, and his sons were Ulam and Rechem. Ulam's son was Bedan, and these were the sons of Gilead, sons of Machir, sons of Manasseh. His sister Hameleketh bore Ishhad, Ebiezer, and Mala. Shemidah's sons were Ahian, Shechem, Liki, and Aniam. The descendants of Ephraim are Shutelah, Bered his son, Tahath his son, Eliada his son, Tahath his son, Zabad his son, and Shuthilah his son. I'll get that right yet. Also Ezer and Eliad, the native-born men of Gath, killed them because they came down to raid their cattle. Their father Ephraim mourned many days, and his brothers came to comfort him. Then he went in to his wife, and she conceived and bore a son and called him Beriah, because evil had befallen his house. His daughter was Shirah, who built both lower and upper Bethlehem, and also Uzan Shirah. Repha and was his son, Resheph his son, Tela his son, Tahan his son, Laden his son, Ammihud his son, Elishama his son, Nun his son, and Joshua his son. Their possessions and settlements were Beth El and its villages, and to the east Naran, and to the west Gezer with its villages, as well as Shechem and its villages, as far as Ai and its villages. And along the borders of the children of Manasseh, Beth Shean and its villages, Tanakh and its villages, Megiddo and its villages, Dor and its villages. In these lived the children of Joseph, son of Israel, the sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, and their sister Sarah. It's Serah. The sons of Beriah, Heber and Malchiel, who was the father of Bizrath. Heber fathered Japhlet, Shomer, and Hotham, and their sister Shua. The sons of Japhlet were Pesach, Bimhal, and Asvath. These were the children of Japhlet. The sons of Shemar, Ahi, Roka, Huba, and Aram. The sons of his brother Helam, Zophah, Imnah, Shelesh, and Amal. The sons of Zophah, Shua, Harnephar, Shaul, Beri, Imrah, Bezer, Had, Shama, Shilsha, Ethran, and Bera. The sons of Jether, Zephaniah, Pispa, and Ezra. The sons of Ola, Ara, Haniel, and Rizia. All these were the descendants of Asher, heads of the clans, choice and mighty men of valor, chief of the princes. The number of them recorded by genealogy for service in war was 26,000 men. Next, we have descendants of Benjamin. Benjamin fathered Bela, his firstborn, Ashbel second, Ara third, Noah the fourth, and Rapha the fifth. Bela's sons were Adar, Gera, Ahidad, Abishua, Naaman, Ahua, Gera, Shephothon, and Haram. These were the sons of Ehud, the heads of clans of the inhabitants of Geba, who were taken captive to Manahath. Naaman, Ahijah, and Gera, he took them captive and fathered Uzzah and Ahidad. Shaharaim fathered children in the country of Moab after divorcing his wives Husham and Bara. By his wife Hodesh he fathered Jobab, Zibiah, Misha, Malcolm, Jews, Sakia, and Mirma. These were his sons, family leaders. By Husham he fathered Abitab and Elpal. The sons of Elpal are Eber, Misham, and Shemed, who built Ono and Lod with its villages, Beriah and Shema, leaders of the clans living in Ajalon, and who drove out the inhabitants of Gath. Ahio, Shashak, Jeremoth, Zebadiah, Arad, Eder, Michael, Ishva, Joha were sons of Beriah. Zebadiah, Meshullam, Hizki, Heber, Ishmerai, Islai, and Zohab were sons of Elpel. Joachim, Zechari, Zabdi, Eliana, Zilithai, Eliel, Adai, Berai, and Shimrath were sons of Shimi. Ishpan, Eber, Eliel, Abdon, Zechari, Hanan, Hananiah, Elam, and Anthothiah, Iphdaiah, and Penuel were the sons of Shashak. Shemsharai, Shechariah, Athaliah, Zerushiah, Elijah, and Zikri were the sons of Jeroham. These were the leaders of the clans listed in the genealogies. These lived in Jerusalem. Now the father of Gibeon dwelt in Gibeon. His wife's name was Maacah, and his firstborn son was Abdon, then Zur, Kish, Baal, Nadab, Gedor, Ahio, and Zechar, and Mikloth, who fathered Shimei. They lived with their relatives in Jerusalem opposite their relatives. Ner fathered Kish, and Kish fathered Saul. Saul fathered Jonathan, Malchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbal. Jonathan's son was Meribel, and Meribel fathered Micah. Micah's son Pithon, Melech, Terari, and Ahaz. Ahaz fathered Jehodai. Jehodai fathered Elameth, Asmaveth, and Zimri fathered Moza. Moza fathered Benaiah. Rapha was his son. Eleazar his son. Azel his son. Azel had 6 sons, and these were their names: Azrikam, Bokru, Ishmael, Shariah, Obadiah, and Hanan. And all these were sons of Azel, the sons of his brother Eshek, Ulam his firstborn, Jush second, and Eliphalet third. Now the sons of Ulam were mighty men of valor, archers, and many had sons and grandsons, 150. All these were descendants of Benjamin. Kohanim and Levites in Nehemiah's day. So all Israel were registered by genealogies. Behold, they're written in the book of the kings of Israel. Judah was carried away captive to Babylon because of their unfaithfulness. The first to settle on their property in their towns were Israelites, Kohanim, Levites, and the temple servants. Those from the children of Judah and the children of Benjamin and the children of Ephraim and Manasseh who settled in Jerusalem were Uthai son of Ammihud, son of Omri, son of Imri, son of Bani, who was a descendant of Perez, son of Judah. From the Shilonites, Azai, the firstborn, and his sons. From the sons of Zerai, Jeuel, that's Jeuel, and their kinsmen 690. From the sons of Benjamin, Salu, son of Meshullam, son of Hodaviah, son of Hasenua, Ibaniah, son of Jeroham, and Elah, son of Uzi, son of Mikri, and Meshullam, son of Shephatai, son of Rael, son of Ibnah, and their kinsmen, according to their genealogies, 956. All these men were leaders of their clan. From the Kohanim, Jebediah, Jehorib, Jachin, Azariah, son of Hilkiah, son of Meshullam, son of Zadok, son of Marioth, son of Ahitub, the ruler of the house of God, Adai, son of Jeroham, son of Pashur, son of Malchijah, and Massa, son of Ediel, son of Jezerah, son of Meshullam, son of Meshulamith, son of Emer, and their kinsmen, heads of their clan, 1,760, very able men for the work of Avodah in the house of God. From the Levites, Shammai, son of Hashab, son of Ezekrim, son of Hashabiah, from the sons of Merari, Bakbakar, Harish, Gilal, and Mattaniah, son of Micah, son of Zechari, son of Asaph, Obadiah, son of Shammai, son of Galal, son of Jeduthun, and Berechiah, son of Asa, son of Elkanah, who lived in the villages of Netophathites, the gatekeeper Shallum, Akkad, Talman, Ahiman, and their brother. Shallum was the leader. He serves to this day at the king's gate to the east. These were the gatekeepers for the camp of the descendants of Levi. Shallum, son of Kor, son of Ebiasaph, son of Korath, and his kinsmen from his ancestral clan, the Korahites, were assigned to guard the gates of the tent. Their ancestors had been responsible for guarding the entrance to the dwelling of Adonai when Phinehas, son of Eleazar, had been ruler over them in time past, and Adonai was with him. Zechariah, the son of Meshullamai, was gatekeeper of the door of the tent of meeting. All these chosen to be gatekeepers at the gates were 212. They were registered in the genealogical records of their villages. David and Samuel the seer had appointed them to their offices. They and their sons were guards of the gates of the house of Adonai, that is, the tabernacle. The gatekeepers were posted on the four sides, toward the east, west, north, and south. Their kinsmen in their villages were to come from time to time and serve with them for 7 days. For the four chief gatekeepers, who were Levites, were entrusted over the chambers and over the treasuries in the house of God. They would spend the night around the house of God because they were assigned to guard it and were in charge of opening it morning by morning. Now some of them had charge of the utensils of the Avodah, for by count they brought them in, and by count they took them out. Some of them were appointed over the equipment and over the utensils of the sanctuary, as well as over the fine flour, the wine, the oil, the frankincense, and the spices. But some of the sons of the Kohanim prepared the mixture of spices. Mattithiah, one of the Levites, the firstborn of Shallum, the Korahite, was in charge of preparing the flat cakes. Some of the relatives of the Kohathites were in charge of preparing the rows of bread every Shabbat. Now these were the singers, patriarchal leaders of the Levites, who stayed in the chambers and were exempt from other service, for they were on duty day and night. They were the heads of the Levite families, chiefs in their genealogical records. These lived in Jerusalem. Jael, the father of Gibeon, lived in Gibeon. His wife's name was Maachah. His firstborn son was Abdon. Then Zur, Kish, Baal, Ner, Nadab, Peter, Ahio, Zechariah, and Mikloth. Mikloth fathered Shemim. They also lived with their kinsmen in Jerusalem opposite their kinsmen. Ner fathered Kish, and Kish fathered Saul. Saul fathered Jonathan, Malchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbaal. The son of Jonathan was Meribal, and Meribal fathered Micah. The sons of Micah were Pithon, Melech, Taharai, and Ahaz. Ahaz fathered Jerah, and Jerah fathered Elameth, Azmaveth, and Zimri. Zimri fathered Moza. Moza fathered Biniah, Rephiah, and with his son, and Elisah his son, and Ezel his son. Ezel had 6 sons: Azrikam, Bakru, Ishmael, and Shariah, and Obadiah, and Hanani. These were the sons of Azel. Now we have chapter 10. Saul dies on Mount Gilboa. Now the Philistines fought against Israel. The men of Israel fled before the Philistines, fell slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines pursued Saul and his sons. The Philistines killed Saul's sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua. The battle raged around Saul, and the archers spotted him, and he was wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to the armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and run me through, so that these uncircumcised will not come and torture me." But his armor-bearer refused to do it, because he was terrified. Therefore Saul took the sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died. So Saul and his 3 sons died. His whole household died together. Now when all the men of Israel who were in the valley saw that they had fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their towns and fled. The Philistines then came and lived in them. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they found Saul and his sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They stripped him and took his head and his armor, and sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines, proclaiming the good news to their idols and to their people. They put his armor in the house of their gods, and hung his head in the house of Dagon. Now Dagon was their god that they worshipped. The Philistines worshipped the false god. Now, when all Jabesh Gilead heard all that the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and retrieved the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons, and brought them to Jabesh. They buried their bones under the oak tree in Jabesh, and fasted 7 days. So Saul died because of his unfaithful acts that he committed against the word of Adonai, which he did not keep, and he even consulted a medium for guidance rather than inquire of Adonai. So he put him to death and transferred the kingdom to David, the son of Jesse. And we're going to begin David's reign in the book of Chronicles next week, starting with chapter 11. I'm going to do a little bit of recapping here. The book of First and Second Chronicles, I'm sorry, was probably written between 425 and 400 BC. And these books are a chronicle or an account of events that were arranged in order. So First and Second Chronicles take us from Adam to Nehemiah, while giving us the main genealogies of the nation of Israel. These books also give us the main events of the Davidic kingdom to the time of the captivity by Babylon. And credit for this is generally given to Ezra, as we mentioned before. And the theme of Chronicles is the temple, the house of the Lord. And the book of Chronicles seems to repeat what we have already seen and gone through in Second Samuel and the books of Kings. So we will see some of this repeated, because we've already talked about Saul and how Saul came to his end as well. So the first book of Chronicles covers the period from Adam to the death of King David, around 971 BC, and Chronicles covers roughly the same period as the first 10 books of the Old Testament. And without the genealogies, the books cover roughly the same period as First and Second Kings. The specific background of First and Second Chronicles is the period after the exile, during the time the ancient world was under the control of the powerful Persian Empire, and all that remained of the glorious kingdom of King David and King Solomon was the tiny province of Judah. The Persians had replaced the monarchy with a provincial government. So the Persians permitted God's people to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temples. So we're going to see this, as we go through this. It was the Persians who sent Nehemiah to govern Jerusalem and rebuilt the walls of the city. So, and the second book of Chronicles covers the period from the reign of Solomon, King Solomon, in 971 BC to the end of the exile around 538 BC. So, and we'll get into that when we get into the second book of Chronicles. I'll come back and revisit this as well. So, Chronicles deals with the matter of the temple that are not mentioned in Samuel or Kings. So we'll get to see that as we move forward in this. First Chronicles has two main divisions. The first is, as we mentioned, the first 9 chapters are all the genealogies, beginning with Adam. And so then we'll see the second division is actually chapters 10 to 29 records the events and accomplishments of the life of King David. So we're going to see a lot of that. And the book of Second Chronicles also has two divisions. So we have the reign of King Solomon is in the first part, and the second part concentrates on the southern kingdom of Judah. And we'll get to see that again when we get into that book of the Bible. So the structure of First Chronicles, uh, as we see, this is more of David's reign. Other than the first 9 chapters are all the genealogies of the people of Adonai. The anointed of Adonai are chapters 10 to 12. The ark of the Lord is 13 to 16. And the covenant of the Lord is chapters 17 to 21. And the temple of the Lord is 22 to 29. Um, so that is pretty much what we have just covered. And like I said, we're going to be covering chapters 11 through 20 next week. So what we're going to be covering is the reign of David. We're going to be talking a lot about David in this, the Ark of the Lord. Especially, the first thing David did after he became king was to bring the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. We're going to see that next week. And to have the Ark of the Covenant in Jerusalem meant the presence of the Lord being there. So that was really important because, as we know, David communed with the Lord all the time and he loved the Lord. So to have the presence of the Lord right there where he was reigning was so very important to him. So, and then we're going to see also, how God was pleased with his choice of one nation out of the human race, Israel being that nation. God chose one tribe, also Judah, and out of that tribe, he chose one family, and that was David. And out of that descendant comes Yeshua. So that's really significant. And then the last week that we're going to be in Chronicles, we're going to be talking about the temple of the Lord. God did not allow David to build the temple, but David was allowed to provide the materials, the Levites, the priests, the singers, the porters, and the charge to Solomon and the nation is how we're going to end Chronicles 1. So I'm going to end this segment here. We're going to come back with an altar call and then close out our Bible study for this week.